Welcome back to Genealogy, an Introduction to Creating Your Family History. We're in Section 1, DNA, and we're going to learn why DNA matters in your family research. So why does DNA matter in genealogy? Well, sometimes we hit brick walls or barriers when we're doing our genealogical research, and DNA can break through these walls. Sometimes we're talking to family members, or we might belong to a genealogical site, and we're just stuck on one person. We just can't find our way. DNA can get you through that. There's a great article published in Family Search that can explain exactly why DNA is important, and it's pretty detailed, a little more detailed than we'll go in our class here, as we're going to try to keep things very much to the point and simple. The name of the article is Overcoming Brick Walls in Your Family Tree with a Genealogy DNA Test. You'll see that I've provided a link, although you can't link on it here. You're going to have to write that down and then type it in and find that article. I would highly recommend you looking at that if you want very a lot of detail. For the purpose of this class, we're going to stick with the basic terms just so you have an understanding of what DNA is all about. So we'll begin with genetics. What is genetics? Genes. What is a gene? What is DNA? What is a centimorgan? What's meiosis? And the relationships and classifications between people. For example, first cousin once removed, that sort of thing. We'll try to help you along with that stuff. So what is genetics? Genetics is the study of heredity. Heredity is a biological process whereby a parent passes certain genes onto their children or offspring. Every child inherits genes from both of their biological parents, and these genes in turn express specific traits. A gene is a basic physical and functional unit of heredity. Genes are made up of DNA. What is DNA? Well, DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid, is the hereditary material in humans and almost all other organisms. Nearly every cell in a person's body has some DNA. Most DNA is located in the cell nucleus, where it is called nuclear DNA. In short, DNA is what makes you, you. Next at bat is the centimorgan. The centimorgan is often abbreviated as a lowercase c and uppercase m. When you donate your DNA or give your DNA for analysis to one of the sites like Ancestry or Family Search or 23andMe, you're going to find out, you're going to see this symbol CM come up. And that's going to be telling you a centimorgan is a unit of genetic measurement, a measurement of probability. It's what experts use to describe how much DNA and the length of a specific segment of DNA you have in common with your relatives. In other words, the more DNA, the more centimorgans, the more CMs, the closer the relationship. The fewer the CMs, centimorgans, the more distant the relationship. Centimorgans are very important in trying to determine your relationship to those people that will show up in your DNA search. Our next word is meiosis. Meiosis is not used very much in discussing DNA, but you'll oftentimes see the relationship between a centimorgan and the word meiosis. And this has to do with the relationship between parent and child, grandparent and child, and so forth, half siblings, etc. In the next, it's not used much, and you can certainly research it more. In the next slide, you'll see a little more information on this. Along with the word meiosis and the phrase centimorgans, you're going to see on this little chart to the right that there is it's a probability relationship between the number of centimorgans and your relationship to an individual. So for example, meiosis would be a parent to child. If you'll take a look here, you'll see one meiosis, and then 3,300 centimorgans equals one meiosis. Then you'll see in the next one, two meioses. And in relation to that, you'll also see that the centimorgans are a certain number as well. So when you look at this, you're talking about probabilities. So if you had 3,300 centimorgans, as you can see here, it's going to be one meiosis. That would indicate generally a parent-child relationship, as opposed to two meioses, which would be 2,200 to 3,300 centimorgans. That is likely to be something like a grandparent. But keep in mind, these are probabilities and they're not rock solid numbers. But it will give you an indication as to how to figure things out. Now that you've completed learning some of the terms related to your genetic test, let's take a look and we're going to move into relationships and try to figure out how one person relates to another. In this case, we're going to say this chart here, which is downloadable in your program. You'll just have to click on it and you can download it and use it, fill in this information yourself, but you're here, so this is self. This would be your parent. This would be your sibling. You move up the ladder, grandparent, great-grandparent, great-great-grandparent, and then third, it changes, third great-grandparent. That means great-great-great-grandparent. Also in these charts, you're going to see things like first cousin once removed, second cousin once removed, third cousin once removed, and how they relate to all of these people that you directly descend from. So let's take a look at how this ties into centimorgans. Okay, so here's how we're going to try to figure out relationships. Again, these forms are downloaded, or that you can download them from your computer and fill in the blanks yourself if you like. Again, we move up to self. See this? And then let's say you have a child. The relationship between you and the child is going to be 3,400 centimorgans. But look at what happens here. When you go to your parent, you have 3,400 centimorgans in relation to your parent. Now keep in mind that these are not perfect. They may not be exactly the same. A sibling, for example, of yours would have centimorgans in a range between, let's say, 2,600 and 3,400. And a niece or nephew could be in a range between 1,300 and 20 and 1,700 centimorgans. Your grandparent would be 1,700 centimorgans, and your great-grandparent 850 centimorgans. So you'll notice that it gets cut in half the further you go back. And that's a pattern. But again, these things are random, so they can be slightly off. There's going to be people on the edge, and that's where your family research is going to matter once you get the DNA to figure out exactly who these people are in relation to you. So I want you to make sure that you download some of these forms that I've made available to you to figure stuff out. So you're going to see here the various, there's going to be a full form that you'll see that involves centimorgans in relation to you, a centimorgan chart to figure out who's related to what. And then it's going to be able to give you a lot of great information. So make sure you download the stuff. And I'll also have a couple of articles in there about DNA, including the ethics of DNA collection. Well, we've now completed section 1. You have a kind of general overview of what DNA is all about, and now it's time to move into section 2, the genealogical proof standard, GPS, and proper record keeping. But before you do that, make sure you reflect on what you've learned so far and take action by joining a genealogy site and get and submit a sample of your DNA to that site. I would recommend Ancestry.com, although 23andMe is fine, and also is Family Search. Any of those, they're the major ones I would suggest, but you should do that right away. It's going to take about anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks to get your results back. And what you're going to do is once you log on, once you get your results back, it's going to be amazing how many people you find out that you're related to that you had no idea, even closely related to. Also, don't forget to download the free forms and samples in this class. Okay, think on it, and then move on to section 2, the GPS. See you then.